welcome back to my channel. For today's episode, I thought we could talk a little bit about persevering in the faith. I feel like so many of us have ups and downs in our spiritual journey, which is completely normal, but sometimes when you hit your low points or you hit your downs, it's hard to get back up. But that's when perseverance comes in. Whenever we are at a spiritual low in our life, we need to be able to get back up. What does that even mean? I feel like so many people talk about how you should never give up, and every time you stumble or every time you fall, you have to get back up. But what does getting back up in spiritual faith, in the faith journey, actually mean? I think getting back up is asking God for forgiveness. Stumbling or falling would be like losing your faith or sinning. Now, getting back up would be asking God for forgiveness or trying to get closer to God by doing the things He tells us to do. Whether that's going to church with a more present mind, or reading the Bible, or praying. There's all these different things you can do to get closer to God, and along with asking God for forgiveness. I feel like so many of us get so discouraged when we sin, and that we almost don't want to go back to God because we don't see a point in it. Sometimes we feel abandoned, or sometimes we don't feel like we are being hurt. See, that doesn't really matter, because no matter what you feel, no matter what you think, the truth is the truth, and the truth is that Jesus Christ died on the cross for our salvation, thus redeeming us of every sin if we go to Him, if we go to the Lord and ask for forgiveness. I'm not saying that you should sin as much as you want. If you go to God, He'll forgive you. No, you have to actually be sorry, and you also have to try and not sin. But sometimes our trying doesn't really work out, and that's when we fall into this sort of hole of despair, and that's when we have to persist and continue to try and not sin. Sometimes we fall into it so deep. Sometimes we do the same thing over and over and over again, where we think that there's no point in trying not to sin, and we just let ourselves do it again. But that's not the way it should be. We are in spiritual warfare, and I feel like so many people talk about spiritual warfare, but what is it really? I think a part of spiritual warfare is sin. But sin separates us from God, and since every single one of us sins, every single one of us can be seen as separated from God, though we are given a way to return back to God. But sometimes when we sin, we try and run away instead of go to God, and that's when we have to persevere. I think it's so incredibly easy to sit here and talk about this, but actually doing it, fighting through spiritual warfare and actually persevering is the hard bit. The fact is that sometimes you might read the Bible, or sometimes you might go to church, and sometimes you might pray, but the very next minute after you have done what you needed to do with God, you might start yelling at someone, or maybe it's just your thoughts that can lead you to sin, and that's when we have to persevere. It's so easy to, I can't stress enough how easy it is to talk about spiritual warfare and to talk about persevering, but actually doing it is so incredibly hard. For some people, when they look at all the things God asks them to do, all the things that can be seen as a sin and all the things that can be seen as good deeds, some people might be like, okay, I got this is kind of easy. Like, they might think it's okay. But for other people, when they look at the big picture, if you've read the Bible or even just know a little bit about it, and you know what God asks of you and what it means to be a good Christian or a good person, it can be seen as so overwhelming. Like, when you do take a step back and you look at the whole picture, it can be seen as overwhelming. And you might feel like giving up. Like, what's the point? Even your thoughts can lead you to sin. How can anyone be saved in this way then? I think the good thing about this is where the Bible tells us what is seen as sin, it also tells us what can be seen as good deeds. But not only these two things, it also tells us like what we can do for it. And a good verse for this is Matthew chapter 24 verse 13. It says, "But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." This verse is not the only one that talks about standing firm or enduring or persevering, but it's distributed throughout the Gospels and throughout the Bible in itself. It always tells us to stand firm or to endure or to have perseverance. And I think the last little bit is really crucial as well. It says, will be saved. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. It's not a question of if when you stand firm, maybe you'll be saved, but rather when you stand firm, if you stand firm, who stands firm, they will be saved. It's guaranteed that you will be saved if you persevere. If you continue to do the things you know you need to do, despite what you feel or despite what you think, you will be saved. So let's all continue to persevere. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to comment down below what you think. Until next time, let's all continue to share the good news. Bye!